What's going on YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel for more boxing content. Just wanted to come on here, talk about the man that everyone's talking about in the heavyweight division, Moses Itauma. I'm sure everyone's seen the knockout already, the fight between him and Jermaine Franklin. It was a vicious knockout. Itauma improves to 14-0, 12 KOs. Um, yeah, man, it was like everything that I expected it to be. It was. I did predict a round 6 knockout because I thought Jermaine Franklin would make it, a bit tricky in there, which he didn't make it tricky for him. But in a sense, he was very negative in the fight. But it was just a fantastic, great performance from Moses Itauma. Um, Obviously, it was an uppercut that caused the knockdown. Also knocked him down in round 3 as well, with a flash knockout, with a flash knockdown, hit him on the top of the head. Probably scrambled Jermaine Franklin a little bit, and he was off balance as well in that shot. So that's what caused him to go down. But that didn't really seem to cause that didn't really seem to hurt him like that, because I think Jermaine Franklin just got up quite fast from that. But it was evident from the start that the speed difference was obviously easy to see. Itama was so much more faster than Jermaine Franklin. Um, he lasted. He did quite well in some of the towards the end of like round 2. He put in some decent work, but it was obviously, you could tell what was going to happen. You could tell it was definitely coming, the knockout. Jermaine Franklin, probably cautious of the power of Franklin, and could of Itama. I could definitely feel his power. Moses Itauma weighed in at 6 pounds heavier than his last fight, but he looked quite chiseled. He looked quite in shape, which in his last fight I feel like he looked definitely more in shape than his last fight. But it didn't seem to affect his speed in the fight, his footwork, and everything that people are saying about him. He's obviously living up to it, because obviously a lot of the time, a lot of these fighters are quick to be pushed by certain pushed by by the industry, pushed forward, and they're not actually that good. But I do think Itama is you know very good, just from his skill set and how he looked. This was supposed to be his toughest test. Jermaine Franklin never been knocked down before, never been knocked out, and the uppercut that I hit him with, I've never seen Jermaine Franklin hurt that badly before. Obviously his team were were annoyed that the fight was stopped. But I think that was a clear stoppage in my opinion. You could see that you could see that he was really hurt by the uppercut. And obviously he fell straight flat forward on his face. Maybe because in America, like, it's different there. I definitely think it was a fair stoppage, and if the referee didn't stop it there, I think a lot of people would have had something to say about the referee, um, saying that that he should have stopped it. But obviously the referee did a great job, because it's his job to like make sure both fighters are safe and make sure it's a fair fight. And for me, that was 100% valid stoppage. I think a lot of the heavyweights would have been looking at, obviously would have been watching that fight, and I feel like a lot of the heavyweights would be thinking that they might not want to fight him, just on the back of that performance, and just seeing what he can do with him only being 20 years old as well. He's only just going to get better from here, and he's still not really grown into his body yet. So like I said, a lot of the heavyweights out there will be looking at him, and definitely probably not wanting to fight him after that. Um, but he mentioned after the fight what would be next. He got asked what would be an ideal fight for you next, and obviously he said he wanted to fight Filip Hrgovic, which I believe he's got a fight with Dave Allen now, so that fight's going to be off the cards. But like I said, he's only 20 years old, still going to get stronger, still going to get better, and he's on an upwards trajectory now. Obviously, a lot of the questions before the fight have still not been answered. Whether can he take a shot? Because Jermaine Franklin never really landed clean on him. So them questions have not been answered yet. Can he go deep into the deep rounds? He's never been past 6 rounds in his career. So questions that need to be answered about that. And obviously, I think Frank Warren did say that he would like to get him out back in the ring by, I think it was June or July, which is important in my opinion, that he needs to be active, and definitely needs to be active to carry on the momentum and the trajectory that they're trying to put him on, because at the minute, boxing is about timing, and obviously with him beating Franklin now, I think he can definitely carry that momentum, and I think it's the perfect time for him to stay active, to get like to try get rounds under his belt. But obviously they need the right fighter in order to push him past round six, because it's obviously not his fault that he's stopping everybody before 6 rounds. It's stopping everybody early. It's not his fault that he's doing that. But they need to find the fighter that's not too risky, but it's gonna give him the rounds for him to get that experience, to be able to take a shot and take a shot. Obviously, no fighter wants to get hit, but to go rounds and to go deeper in fights. I do think he will become world champion sooner rather than later. What's next for him? Thinking about his next fights, I have read somewhere that he will be made mandatory for the Wardley Dubois winner, from WBO President Gustavo Oliveira. Don't know if I've said it right. Yeah, the WBO President has mandated him to fight the winner of Wardley and Dubois. So, has he fought, big enough names to be able to fight for the title this early on in his career? You guys let me know what you think about that in the comment section. But I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if he'd, like, obviously in the future probably will be heavyweight champion, but has he fought good enough opponents to be able to just be mandatory for a WBO shot at the title? Which I don't know about that. So we'll just have to see how that fight plays out between Wardley and Dubois, which is going to be a cracking fight. I'm definitely looking forward to that one. Wardley did, after the fight, he was asked about Itauma, and I know that they are stablemates. And Wardley, I found it interesting that Wardley kind of pushed it to one side, the fight, and kind of said that he's looking towards the Usyks and the Furies of the worlds, and they're on different trajectories right now, which is interesting. But that fight could happen down the line, but obviously Bobby Ward is kind of not alluding to, not want, maybe, I don't know what I don't know, not alluding to taking that fight. Both have the same trainers as well, so I don't know, that could I don't know how that would work out. I really don't know, but it'd be interesting. But I do think Itama would probably win that fight. Um, yeah, I think Itama would probably beat Dubois as well, probably. But I think Dubois would probably be more of a challenge for Itama, because I think Dubois is bigger and more of a textbook boxer. So it'd be interesting to see that. I think I'd want to see that. I'd want to see both of them fights. But let me know in the comment section if you agree with him being mandatory for that uh for that belt. Um, but other than that, yeah, that's gonna probably be the end of today's video. Um, if you've enjoyed it, please hit the like button. Also subscribe to the channel as well. I'm going to be covering a lot of content on heavyweight season, with Deontay Wilder and Chisora fighting this week, which obviously I'm looking forward to that one as well. That's definitely going to be a guaranteed knockout in that fight. I don't see that fight going the distance. Let me know about your thoughts on that fight as well in the comments. But yeah, Itauma, you know, he is he's it. He's definitely it. I'll wrap up the video there, and I'll see you in the next one.